That's like seems like such a strict deadline, but I understand. Like,
Yeah, limitations breed creativity, in my opinion.
mm,
And I think that's like what a lot of creatives get caught up in the weeds.
okay, I think we're good to go. I usually start with like, how was your day? Would you kind of do today? Would you have fun? Like, what creatively did you do today? That kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. So first of all, I've been doing like a design challenge, and a lot of times when I get really apathetic about design, or like I haven't been doing enough of like my own personal
Mm-hmm.
work, I kind of think up of like a design challenge that I can do. So this month I'm doing a new theme every week, every day. And it also goes back to kind of a mantra of like creating every day for me. So anytime I get down on that, I'll try to like think up a new challenge that keeps me going. And so this week is lettering positive affirmation. So that's what I did today.
Oh,
I just got done doing that. Sometimes there's more pressure in like getting it out than actually making it, which sucks, but I'm doing it, and it kind of forces me to fit that into my schedule at some point. And for this one, I'm kind of every challenge I do, I'll tighten it up a little more. So this time it's like by 6 p.m. every day, like gotta get it done and then walk away, you know? So
dang.
that's kind of like my creative juice for the week. I have a lot of like client projects going on right now, which I'm super happy about, but sometimes it does not breed a lot of your personal creativity.
Yep.
And that's why I think it's so important to have some kind of creative outlet at some point during the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm all digital mostly. So working on my iPad and on Illustrator is kind of my go-to, which is
For
awesome.
sure.
It's very portable. I don't need to know a lot of things. And it's kind of what I'm best at. So that's kind of what I'm doing. Next week, starting Monday, we'll be doing illustrating five natural wonders. So I'll be doing like those Monaco posters that you see all the
Mm-hmm.
time? Kind of like in that style of like travel posters. I'm
Okay.
excited
Yeah. Yeah.
to explore that.
Dang. I just with those design challenges, I'm always like, I have ADHD, so it just doesn't. The next day, I'll be like, wait, what was I doing? Like I completely forget about like what was kind of like. So I should probably put myself to the challenge one of these days. But to have it done by 6 p.m., that's like seems like such a strict deadline. But I understand. Like,
Yeah, limitations breed creativity, in my opinion.
mm,
And I think that's like what a lot of creatives get caught up in the weeds. I don't know if that's kind of what you're referring to, but for
mhm,
me, it's always been like the most challenging prompt is the one with no prompt, and giving myself like a set time or like a set palette or like a set theme helps tremendously, because at that point you already got your step one out of the way, right? So like
yeah.
how do you step two and three and four come way easier, because a lot of people get stuck on step one. And if we can figure out those things before you even like put the pen to the pencil, you're already on your way to success.
That's a great way to put it.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
didn't, I feel like you're speaking in like like
Uh,
in the inspiration that people need to kind of get through. And it seems like you've already learned a lot of those things about design where it's like it's not being creative. It's more of like you have to set the structure for yourself to have like a process to be creative when the time comes. So you're doing
yep.
these little design prompts and that will bring on the creativity when you need to work on a client project or something like that.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And that's why I think this design challenge, I specifically told myself like it's kind of like four mini challenges in one, because I'll kind of be using each part of it in every other one. And yeah, you're right, because I already have like I made five posters, and if a client wants a poster, well, here we are, you know. Or if someone wants a
yeah,
lettering piece done for like a gift or something, they're easy. Like we can just jump back into it, right?
yeah, that's dope. I like
Thank
that.
you, thank you.
All right, so I think it's a good spot to go ahead and kick it off.
Yeah, totally.
Um, I want to welcome everybody to Do You Know Designers? It's a podcast for designers to show off that designers are more than just logo makers and robots and pixel pushers. We actually have full personalities and backgrounds and things we love, things we hate. So I've kind of set up this question podcast where we'll ask silly questions, serious questions, design questions, random questions, and we'll just have kind of fun with it. Today we have on Brayan. Um, I want you to just go ahead and give us a quick bio. Did you go to school for design? What type of design work do you really like? Where are you from? Just kind of some of that general conversational stuff.
Totally, yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I've been following you for a pretty long time at this point. And it's always nice to see another person of color following their path. They're, trying to follow whatever path they're on. So I really appreciate you having me on. My name is Brayan Montes-Terrazas. I am a full-time freelance illustrator and designer here in Denver, Colorado. I currently own and operate the Yamz World of Color, which is a small boutique design agency where we focus on helping small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and Fortune 500 clients, specifically that are queer-owned, women-owned, or POC-owned. In that capacity, that makes up most of our clientele. We do all kinds of things from, I guess we would mostly be known for branding, logos and all that good stuff, and also custom illustrations for a variety of things like corporate gifts, merchandise for different organizations, or even publication design and illustration of that sort. So that's kind of my jam. I also create and sell my own work and art in a small brand called Yamz World, and we sell awesome identity-driven art and apparel, shirts, prints, all kind of amazing stuff. A lot of the stuff on my wall you can't really see, but a lot of the stuff up here is my stuff. And yeah, I love creating products. It's kind of one of my hobbies and like passions. Eventually, I'd love to start some kind of streetwear brand that is identity oriented. I identify as queer and undocumented. And for the folks that may not be as familiar with the term undocumented, I would just encourage you to Google it. We only have an hour here, so we're not going to go into the nuances of what that means. And it's the two identities that I hold very dearly to my heart, outside of being Latino and a person of color, right? But it's a lot of intersectional identities that kind of come together to make one very unique and challenging identity, I would say. And that really drives my work and a lot of the things that I do, from the client work, as you might have heard, and also the personal projects that drive my own creativity. I did not go to school for design. I'm a alumnus of Colorado State University, go Rams. I actually graduated in business, and that has been the foundation for my own small business. Kind of a backstory to that is I actually I started school as a finance major. So the goal was kind of to be honest, I don't know, but like hedge funds, Wall Street, whatever that means. And I was kind of following someone else's dream as like a child of immigrants. There's a lot of pressure on your back to kind of propel not only yourself forward, but the entire family forward. And so I kind of felt that pressure throughout my entire life, especially in college, because for a lot of, I would say, immigrant parents, but also ethnic parents that I've learned, there's a big weight to like freeing everyone from poverty and oppression through education. And a lot of times that's not how the story goes, unfortunately. It's no longer the golden ticket out, unfortunately, that it may have been for our parents. And now in my own journey, I was really not doing what I wanted to do. And I fell into like a pretty bad depression my junior year of college. And that led me to reevaluate what I was doing. Outside of my schooling, I was designing posters, t-shirts, all kinds of stuff for my extracurricular activities. And I felt like in a flow state, in like a peace when I was doing those kinds of things. And so that kind of led me to think, well, that's what I probably should be doing for the rest of my life if it brings me that much joy. And I was good at it too. So I switched my major to marketing because that was like the closest thing that I could think of, and that wouldn't hold me back. And thankfully, I actually got a full ride scholarship, so I didn't pay anything for school.
Dope.
Yeah. So I graduated debt free with an awesome internship at a small bougie firm in Boulder, Colorado, where we designed packaging for different better for you foods. So a lot of the things, they would end up in Whole Foods and in Erewhon. While I loved working there, I wasn't designing. I was an account manager. And if you don't know what that is, it's kind of like project management and stuff like that. But I was in it, right? And I was doing the thing, still not being 100% true to myself, but learning a lot. I learned so much about client management, relationships, scopes, all that good stuff. But I was also feeling like a bit of a turmoil with creating things that were not available to my own community. Growing up lower middle class, and in some instances under the poverty line, it was tough for me to actually connect with these like big brands and better for you stuff that cost like $20 a bottle or things like that. And so I got furloughed, and here we are now. And it's been nothing but good things, all positive things. I've connected with a range of clientele from nonprofit organizations to recently I just finished a project with Nestle International with a international brand that is their like recipe website for Hispanic and Latino foods. So that is like a supermarket thing and also an online website for recipes, which I'm really excited about. So that's kind of the TLDR of the past couple of years.
Yeah, that's cool. The thing that stuck out to me most is that pressure. You talk about that pressure being from an immigrant family. That's the same pressure I felt being Black. Like my mom really truly believed education was the way to get ahead and get out there. And as you kind of go through it, you just realize, no, it's not education, it's passion. Like passion is truly how you free yourself from these systems. Yeah. And until you're living in your passion, there's no way you're gonna kind of have any upward mobility or upward lift. Like I can have no money, but if I'm working in my passion, at least I'm happy, right? Or like on the pursuit to it. Like, so that's really cool. Like I'm glad to see that you were just like, and young too. You're just like, oh, I got to make the move. Like I didn't change until I was like 30. Like I didn't make that move. The money had been spent. Like college had been spent already. And it's like, now I look back at it, I'm like, dang, like I even got a loan for it still. Yeah. Like I didn't even have a full ride. So it's like, how do you level with that? So it's something I cry about every once in a while, but.
Gotcha. Totally. No, yeah. I also think that like, especially for our parents, like, payoff is such a immediate thing because they're such hustlers and because they had to be, right? And something that I talk about with my therapist a lot is like what worked for our parents is not going to work for us a lot of the times, and that's where that like butting heads is,
man, right? Yeah.
And they won't see that, and that's okay, right? That's totally okay because that's what they had to do to get forward. I also think that any moment that I'm like, I'm not where I'm supposed to be, I also think about how early on I am in my career, and I've already done, thankfully, and have the privilege to do so many amazing things up to this point. There was another point I was going to say. And because I had those opportunities, because I had the opportunity to like go to college, get my degree for free, basically, and put in the work, there was moments where I was like, I'm not gonna mess this up. Like I was given the path, so I'm gonna do it, right? Yeah. And it was also like there was moments too, like I came out my freshman year of college, and that was early. That's early for a lot of people, right, in their lifetime. And the same moment, it's like these little pieces of like choosing yourself that you're gonna have to reckon with for a lot of your life. And maybe even now, like, have I really fully, truly like accepted myself when maybe I take on clients that I don't really want to do, but it's good money, right? Yeah. Right. Have we really like achieved that? And so for anyone listening, I think that if you're in a position where you're a designer and you like design, but don't want to jump headfirst into it, I think there's like small steps to choosing that path. You don't have to take the leap like right away, or for anyone, artist or anything of the same sorts. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's great. You can take those you can choose to create every day, a little bit at a time, and end up getting to where you kind of ultimately want to be. I think we probably need to jump into the questions.
Let's go. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to start with this one. Okay. So question number 1, if animals could talk, which would be the rudest?
Which would be the rudest?
Yes.
That's a great question. I'm gonna say any flightless bird.
Yeah, are they just mad? Like,
yeah, no, exactly. Like they got like screwed over in the long run because have you ever seen an ostrich, or like not an ostrich, but there's like emus or the other. There's not really like there's one that can kill you. Well, they could probably all kill you, but there's one specifically that always looks mad, and I don't know what's its problem. And so like, yeah, any flightless bird, even penguins, like they're in the freaking cold, right?
Yeah.
That's my answer. Poor guys.
That's so funny. I didn't even think about penguins, but you're right. They're kind of left in the cold. They can't fly, and it's like, hey man, you kind of like left me down here.
Have you ever seen March of the Penguins?
I have. Yeah. I love. Yeah.
Tragic. Sad.
Tragic. I was gonna say geese. Geese are always pissed, and they can fly, but they're always like mad, like get off my grass type animals. And I'm like, why are you so angry? Like you're a bird, you can fly, go somewhere else. Like, but it's just so funny to see how like, I don't know. I just don't mess with birds for real. You're right. I think it's just I don't mess with birds like that.
No. You're not alone. The bird conversation comes up a lot actually. They also work for the bourgeoisie, just so we're clear on that.
I actually, so this is random. I actually learned the other day, my son has he's really into dinosaurs. So he got this new dinosaur book. And so it was explaining like the different types of dinosaurs. And I always thought like pterodactyls and everything, the pterodactyls, I thought the big whale things or big alligator things that were in the water were also called dinosaurs. But apparently they're not, because they evolved and still exist.
Oh.
Like, because they evolved into birds and they still are around, they don't count as dinosaurs. Or the ones in the water evolved and they're out, like they're alligators now. Yeah, they're not considered dinosaurs. And I was like, wow. Like that's crazy. Like, and that's the part of the anger with the bird, like the bird community, is they're like, we've been around for a long time and y'all don't give us any respect. Like, so
have you seen the newest dinosaur documentary on Apple TV Plus?
I have not.
No. Okay. So the fascinating part about it, since we're bringing up dinosaur facts, it's the first modern documentary that features velociraptors with feathers, because before 1999, when Jurassic Park came out, it was normally accepted that velociraptors didn't have feathers until a discovery in 1999, and now it's generally accepted that all velociraptors had feathers.
What?
Yeah. So anything that was made before 1999 is inaccurate, and this is in 2022 the first documentary with accurate, as closely as we can get them, velociraptors. It's pretty cool.
With feathers.
Yeah.
And those emus probably came from velociraptors. Dang, I'd be angry too if I would look like an emu instead of a velociraptor. So we're gonna move on to question number 2. You put on a post on, I think it was Instagram, on your stories. You were asking people what they thought you were when it came to like your different lanes of creativity or your different lanes of work and working with clients. And I thought that was so fascinating, because most people feel like you should be niching. So why have you decided not to niche and go down into like a tinier lane instead of kind of what you do now?
That's a great question. I think it's because I just don't trust a person who hasn't like tried it all. And I think the best person is the one who has. There's a lot of moments where I doubt myself in that, because obviously we see so many like lettering artists who are badass lettering artists, and that's all they do. There's badass logo makers, and that's all they do. But there's these moments where I catch them saying that like, oh, I tried making a mural, sucked, I don't want to do it again. And you won't know until you do it, right?
Yep.
I don't know if you follow Made by James. He's like an awesome logo maker, right? In his book and in the podcast I listened to, he said like the best logo maker is the one who is also a lettering artist and a muralist and a thing, because they realized quickly that they didn't want to do that because they didn't like to do it, or it didn't bring them or the money wasn't there, right? And so he tried it all and then landed on logos, and that's his main thing now, right? We keep mentioning how young I am, and I think it's okay to have all these interests, because more or less, like it's like a 5-lane highway going down the same like road, going in the same direction, right?
Yeah.
A lot of my work centers around identity, and even if it's a lettering piece or an illustration, it's going to have some lettering component. One of my creative heroes, Adam Vicarell, he is actually he's a local talent here in Denver. He has an agency called Vicarell Studios, and I've been following for a really long time, and he was a hand letterist, he's a muralist, he's a brand designer, all these things. And I just sit there, I'm like, like when I first found him, I was like, aren't you supposed to niche? Aren't you supposed to like be about one thing, right? And it wasn't until I was part of Scotty Russell's coaching program where he came on and he was like, it all kind of followed the same thing. I've just been following the fog for 25 years or 15 years or whatever. I've just been like following what feels good, and eventually it's led me down these paths. Now, I don't think that you can do everything like mediocrely, because he does everything like with high skill, right?
For sure.
But I think it's because I just want to try as much and figure out what I'm good at, what people need, and what I want to do. Like, for example, I did one mural, and I don't know if I want to make another mural. Like, it's just not for me. Maybe in the future that'll change, but that process kind of like I didn't jive with it as much as I like custom illustration for merchandise for someone else, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about learning and discovering yourself through the unknown. And now that's a mantra I follow, is like chasing the fog, because you're right. I don't have a niche when it comes to like the actual work, but I do have a niche. A lot of people don't realize that I do have a niche when it comes to like the people I serve. And that's so funny, because like it's so broad, like still like marginalized identities are a niche, because we have a life experience that a lot of people cannot relate to, because we're technically still the minority, even though that's not the case, right?
Yeah.
But there's a reason why there's a lack of POC therapists. There's a reason why there's a lack of POC designers. There's a reason why, because first of all, they don't get the limelight, but also because there's no one to connect to. There's no mentors, there's no CEOs, there's no, not a lot of famous designers. There's amazing famous designers that are POCs, but there's not as much of them that we can take inspiration from. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it's really important to like try to do as much as I try to figure out as much as I can first, and then figure out what's like best for me. So the act of bringing up marginalized identities is my niche, quote unquote.
Got you. I love that. Because I always think about some people niche with process. Like, we will do this same process over to get the creative solution that we're looking for, if that's animation or logo design or a mural or whatever. But yeah, that's beautiful. You found a community to serve, and you're like, what do you guys need? Like, what type of help do you need? And I'll provide those different ways to do it. I think that's much better than being like, oh, I'm just gonna brand gyms. Yeah, I'm your gym guy, and it's just like, I guess, like, eventually I feel like there's not going to be enough creativity or enough passion to be able to keep doing that. So that's always my problem with the niche thing. But I think that's beautiful. That's how it probably should be. I've always had a passion to serve more Black businesses and Black people, but I'm still finding out how to do that, like how to get to them, and then kind of what they need, because again, it's a little different than I work a 9-to-5 in a branding agency where we serve clients who have been around for a while or have money to kind of pay for this stuff. So.
Yeah. I also think that like a lot of people don't realize, I think like, it's so funny. The big players, like, you don't realize how much of their own rules they break themselves. Because I think of like, first of all, you had the Hood Sisters on here, which I don't know how you got them, but like, they are not a single entity like agency. Like, they do it all, right? And they're like, you could say they have a niche, but they kind of don't. And it's so interesting to me, like they're hyper successful, and so why should we be playing by the rules that are set for us as well? So, and nothing against them, but they're two white women. Like, if they can do it, girl, you can do it too. Like
100%.
there's so many Black and Latino and gay businesses that need our help that then they rely on things like Fiverr and like 99 Designs to get that done. When there's a local gay, queer, Latino, Black artist right in your own neighborhood that can knock it out of the park too. And people don't realize that. One of my biggest pet peeves is like people not being able to find local talent that they know is there. Because there's so many times people come my way and they're like, if I would have known you were a thing like a month ago, I would have been way better, because we hired this person. They didn't know what, like, the cultural elements of what we wanted. Yeah. We paid for this brand we're not going to use, right? And we just wasted money for that. And it happens over and over and over again. And I just in my mind, like, this can't be such a problem that like people are doing this, right? And so in the future, I think for me, it's a goal to like have some kind of like directory or something like that with like designers of color or neighborhoods too. Because you think major cities, there has to be something or someone or a small agency. So yeah.
100%. I agree. Yeah. Yeah, it's there. And that's a lot of people's excuses. They're just like, oh, well, yeah, I couldn't find them. And I'm like, that's not true.
Yeah.
So I think the more directors we can create for our cities and the more connection we can create between Black people and queer people and minorities to just be like, hey, we have this team of people who have different skills. This is how they can serve you. Like, so I love the directory and like, how do we think through that for different places in the world? And also you brought up the Hood Sisters, and they're just awesome people. Like, I didn't do anything special. That's but yeah, with them, you were talking about like I've had a conversation with them before where they were like, as long as you're open to serve people and you've created the process to keep things tight and orderly, people will want to work with you. It doesn't matter what type of work they're looking for. They'll just want to work with you if you're approachable and you have a process that works. So totally. I was like, I love that. Like, and I've learned from them. I've kind of dropped the ego, and I'm like, I'm serving people. I have to be a better better servant to people and understand what they need instead of trying to, again, sell. Like, I think that's that's kind of the dark side of design, is how much we push and we try to sell people things that they might not need. And then it's like, they don't need it. Now they're mad at you because they got something that they don't like, but they never needed it in the first place.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, so let's go ahead to the next question. So if you could only watch 3 movies for the rest of your life, which ones would they be?
It's a great question. Have you seen Jordan Peele's Nope yet?
I have not.
I have not.
But okay. I'm excited to go see it. Yeah.
I think that one's up there for sure, because I feel like every time I watch it, like I could find something different. It was so good. Like, I've been ever since I left the theater, I've been thinking about it for a while, and I've made some art too that no one has seen yet. But that one, it's ironic too, because like that movie centers around like the idea of like why humans are addicted to spectacle, or why we like go out when there's a car crash in front of our house, or why we like whenever there's a protest or something's happening in politics, or even if we think of like the last president, like we were kind of all there just for like the spectacle of it, like for like what is happening next, right? Yeah. And so that movie just left me like my head turning. I could watch that for the rest of my life. It was really, and also like the cinematography of it all was awesome. It was filmed on IMAX film, which is awesome too. And I don't know if you knew this, but it was shot all in the day, and then it was color corrected to look at like night. Yeah, and then like the light was edited. Yeah. I thought that was wild. So the cinematography, everything that Inception was the other one. I like a big movie moment. Like, I love big movie moments, and that just feels like something that and then the last one, just for a little switching it up, even though it's a sad gay movie, is Call Me by Your Name. It just feel, if I want to feel something, I just put that on for so many reasons. Yeah.
I love that. That's dope. Inception's so great. It's just, it's one of those where it's like, I would call it a big spectacle. Like, it's just from beginning to end. Like, if you miss anything, you're like, you don't understand what's going on.
Right.
So that one's so good. Yeah, I would have to say 2 of them will probably be Marvel movies. So
yeah, which ones?
I would probably say Infinity War and Endgame. Like those are like the big ones that I would have to kind of like hold on to.
You got 6 hours right there of quality entertainment.
Yeah, and then my other one, I love dumb childhood kids movies. So Little Giants, I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
I've never seen it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, I love that movie. That's just one of those where I'll go back to every time. Don't care how like dumb it is or like how much older I am. It's such a good feel good. Like it reminds me of like being a kid. So it's like such good nostalgia. But I love movies for that. Like my wife doesn't like movies, so I'm like, how do you not like movies? And she's just like doesn't like having to sit in one place for so long.
I can see that. My mom is the same. She's not a fan. She always falls asleep in the movie theater, so we make fun of her for it.
Are your parents in Colorado too, or is it just you? Okay.
No, both of them are here.
That's dope. Yeah. Okay, let's do the next question. You always say you have some pieces of merch that say not your hardworking immigrant. That really has like resonated with me. Can you explain what the phrase "not your hardworking immigrant" means to you?
Yeah, totally. It's such a, I don't know why it's such a point of contention for some people, but for me, I was just kind of like done with the phrase like they are such a hardworking immigrant, or like they're just hardworking immigrants, right? And it's like I think it just stems to immigrants are tools of capitalism in a lot of people's minds, or in certain people's minds, if you catch my drift. Because we are field workers, we are factory workers, we are janitors and custodians, food service. We're the what is it? The essential workers.
Yeah.
And this was right around the end of 2022 when I made that piece. And yeah, I was just kind of like over it. And I think people don't realize that like we're just hardworking because like it's survival. It's a need. It's not a want, right? There's a lot that plays into that, especially how it affects us then, because like, you know, thankfully I haven't had to work those kinds of jobs, but then in turn, I can't get off my iPad until 9:00 at night, right? Or I can't put down client work until it's like done or like perfect. And so it was a reflection of that, because there's a lot of what I don't think people understand is like an emphasis on your hardworking immigrant. Like I'm my own hardworking immigrant. I'm my family's hardworking immigrant, right? Because a lot of people take it as like, I'm just not hardworking. I'm an immigrant, but I'm not hardworking. And that's like not the point. Or I'll get people in my comment section being like, I'm proud to be like a hardworking immigrant and I take pride in that. I'm like, well, hashtag brainwashed, because I don't even want to jump into all of that. And yeah, the it's so funny. Sometimes if you don't like it here, go back is like thrown from people of your own kind. We'll say that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, dare I say, flabbergasted when I hear things like that. And yeah, it's just kind of like to put it back into people's minds when you think about that, or like people say that, like, what do they actually mean? And what does that mean? Like, what does it mean? And also, like, it kind of means like there is only value in immigrants if they are hardworking, right? And you could kind of put that to a lot of different things. You could like equating that to a lot of people, like they're good Black people, or like the nice Black folk, you know, things like that. You could probably think about that in the same way. And so yeah, it's just a reflective piece, and something that I think a lot of people connected to. Yeah, it was one of my first like viral like moments,
for sure.
And a lot of people really connected with that, and I think it really helped people to think about like, why are we so hardworking?
Yeah, I love that, because you're basically taking yourself back. Like, you're releasing the trauma that has been put on you, especially probably over generations, and basically saying, you now no longer own me. I think that's beautiful. And that's what I wanted to ask, because I was like, there feels like there's something here, but I don't want to read it as like, I'm a Black guy. I don't necessarily know everybody else is where they're coming from. Let me ask the question instead of trying to assume. But I love that. I think that's great. I think you're saying I own myself and I own the hours that I put in.
For me, like reclamation is one of the things that I like consistently think through and what that means for my own work. I do think that like I'm not in the if I wasn't building my like career right now, I would say some edgier things. But I think right now I'm just kind of pushing as much as I can for now until I have like the reputation to do that. And it sucks that I have to do that, but those kinds of things are enough to like push the boundaries a little bit and get people to think. Because unfortunately we do still live in a pretty like messed up country where you might say some things you could like really go wrong for the wrong people, especially with like agencies and things like that. And so I'm trying to do more of the thought-provoking things.
For sure. It's like when like an artist or a producer gets to someone to produce their first album or their first movie, it has to be something that is liked by all parties involved, and it can't be something as edgy as when they have all the money and all the capital to do what they want. So that makes sense. I totally get that. Don't want to burn bridges at the ripe age of 25 like so it makes sense. Okay, so next question is, how do you feel that you are treated in the design community?
That's a great question. That's when you sent me that, I kind of spiraled a little bit. Because I did have to think about like my first of all, what are my perceptions of myself in the design community, and then what are other people's perceptions of me? And I'm not entirely sure, mostly because I think I like live in this 10 by 10 bubble that is my studio right here. And I unfortunately don't get out as much as when I worked at an agency, but it's so interesting to have like folks reach out like an email for like an inquiry and be like, we've been watching you. I'm like, have you now? Like, you've been watching me? Which makes me, first of all, like, it's working, something's happening, like at least I'm catching someone's eye. But second of all, like, make yourself known, like comment or like reach out on Instagram and just, hey, we're here, right? I'm not sure like what my perceptions are like 100% complete. I'm not sure. And I think it kind of touches on one of your other questions. I think it's because social media is such a finicky bitch sometimes, where you don't know, like, am I making an impact? Where is this like seen? And the fact that you are framing it as like in the design community, I'm not sure, because I rarely talk to other designers. And that's one of my flaws, is like, I want to be more open with designers. What I do know is that I do connect with a lot of other queer immigrant men specifically, but a lot of queer immigrant like women and non-binary folks and all kinds of people, because I'm open about my process and like a lot of the things that happen, like that, what we just talked about. And I'm very open about my sexuality and my undocumented status too. And so that helps people to know that they're not alone. And I will get DMs all the time saying that I thought I was the only one feeling this, or like, I'm so glad I'm not alone. And so I think that's working. Like, I think I'm reaching the right people, thankfully, and being able to like open up myself to other folks. I think I still have a lot of opening up to do to the world, and that'll come with time. But I'm not sure what the design industry thinks of me, and I don't know who's watching. That's the other thing.
For sure.
The Nestle job I got from my old agency, and they reached out to me, right? And so at least they're watching. If they're watching, who else is watching? Which then leads me to believe, like, do I need to be even tamer? Do I need to like censor myself? What does that look like in this age? And also, this is something I've been grappling with. Since I do client work, I do personal work, and then I do products. Like, it's so hard to know what to share and when to share it, because I think about like, if a creative director were to go on my Instagram page right now, would they be impressed by like an enamel pin of the zodiac signs? Would they be impressed by a t-shirt? But then I think about like, well, I have all this inventory here, like someone needs to see it, right? Where's that balance, and like, how do I then like redirect people to the right places? Because I put like all my professional work on Behance, because I've gotten actually a lot of work from there, weirdly enough. And that's a go-to for people. They know like designers' portfolios are pretty much there. Then my website is kind of a mix of like the highlights, and then my shop And then my Instagram is kind of like no man's land. And then let's not even talk about TikTok. TikTok is like, shoot, it's like Mad Max Fury Road or something like that, you know? So yeah, I don't know. It's we're living, it almost feels like the Wild West sometimes, because the channels, not even social media, like the channels are changing, are evolving so much, and you don't know when someone's gonna see your stuff, right? So yeah, it's kind of weird. I'm not entirely sure what the perception is of me. And then there's folks, your most recent guest, I forget his name. I just followed him.
Okay.
And he has like 1,000 followers on Instagram, but yet he's like a big name, and some big names follow him. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like, how do you not have like a big following? And then I think about like, but then a big following doesn't mean success.
Yep.
So it's so weird, because perceptions are so shifted.
Yeah, it's so all over the place. And I feel like the landscape, I had a video recently on my YouTube talking about like the future of social media for designers. And I was just like, it seems like we're moving into a new era of what it is to market kind of design. And we're kind of waiting for the place to exist. TikTok doesn't necessarily feel right. Instagram feels like they're trying to be TikTok. Behance doesn't do much to try to push us out to other people. Dribble doesn't either. So it's just like, who are we and kind of where do we go and how do we exist?
Yeah.
Can I tell you my perception of you?
Sure. Yeah, of course. Please. I'd love to hear.
I'm super impressed by you, because it's just one of those things where it's like, I have also struggled with the niching, and like very much so, but I think of you more of an artist than I think of you as a designer. So it's like, to see people being artists, but then serving the communities that need the help is amazing. Like, I think that's what this should be. It's creativity. How can our creativity help elevate the next person is what our jobs truly are. Like, and that's why the money of it all doesn't really matter. The followers of it all doesn't really matter. It's that relationship with that client or that person buying the merch, and they're just like, this means so much to me. And it's like, it's just but you changed their life. Like, you might have changed their trajectory. Like, so that's let me digest that real quick. But yes, even talking about that poll I put on and first of all, thank you. We'll start there. That poll I put on my Instagram story, first, it was like one of the most interacted with stories I've ever had. So people were like, needed to get this out. Yep.
But then I got DMs, because I put brand designer, I put designer, and then I put illustrator. And then I put none of those. And so a lot of people said designer, because I felt like it was the general one. But then I got DMs that were like, you should have put artist. And it made me think, because I think like perceptions of art, especially these days, are like analog painting or drawing or whatever, right? And I also feel like a big reason why I don't have as big of a following is because people don't take digital artists as serious as analog artists some of the time. So if you're not doing analog art, you're not really an artist in a lot of people's minds, unfortunately. But yes, I think going back to another question we talked about is like, do you listen to Andy J. Pizza's Creative Pep Talk podcast?
I do not, but I've seen him popping up, so I probably need to
get on it. Yeah, you should get on it. It's awesome. It's the #1 creative podcast. Not sponsored. But he says, I'm not building a creative career. I am a career creative. Does that make sense? So like when I heard that, I'm like, oh, like that makes sense, because while I may not be like this like specific brand designer, I am a creative force that people are scared of and people will need too. And it motivates other people to become that too. And I think about that a lot, because you kind of bring up a good point. You're like, you are what you need. You are a certain thing to people when they need it at the right time.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of that fog that we talked about at the beginning. It's like, just keep following that, because like if you go down this path and you're like, hi, like I met you, let's go down here too, like, you know, swim this way. I was a mural artist for the person who needed a mural at that specific time, right?
Yep.
And I'll be that's, thank you for putting it that way. I think that gives me a lot of like peace in a lot of ways, because it also makes me think like I don't have to be a defined thing. And that's the thing, is I think we're kind of like Gen Z. I would consider myself a zillennial, but we don't like to be defined by things, like, right? We don't want to be in that box. And I think that's what pushes me, is being able to crank out a lettering piece and then double back and then do an illustration at the same, you know, in the same week, because that's okay, because it's my thing and my audience knows that.
For sure. Yeah, you feel like you're, I would say it like metaphorically, is like a wall. You're like a force, because you have so many things you can help people with. Like, it's like a force all moving at once. And you're right, it does intimidate people. And I think that's why people run to like niching, because they're like, I can never do all these things. But it's like you could help so many different people in so many different ways. So that's
right. No, totally.
So cool.
And I think, I think if you're, you know, you're good at one thing, go for it, right? You're gonna be stellar at that thing. But I think sometimes, especially when I get down on myself or like start comparing myself to other people, I consistently, especially like on the product side, sometimes that's a whole other can of worms. But when I start comparing myself, I sit down and I'm like, what's my like my value proposition, right? My value proposition is good art, is good stuff, and that's all. Like, I will ride that for the rest of my life, and that's all you need. Like, what it is, different story. Where it goes, different story. But the fact that it's going to be good stuff, that, like, let's just start there, and that's like all you need, right? So anytime I get down, or like I see something that is like, you know, I could do that better or something like that in a non-pretentious way, I just sit there. I'm like, oh, and like I can do that, and I will continue to do that.
Yeah, isn't that the best moral compass? Like, I just want to do the best job I can. Like, I don't know if other career paths people can say that, like, but we get to say that. And you're over here rewriting my business plan at this moment. Like, I'm just like, oh, okay. That's how you can interpret these things. And that's why I think it's so important for like us to conversate and have these conversations, because we all feel the same way about most of this stuff, but we just have found it in different ways and have different backgrounds. And that's why it's led us to where we're kind of going. Love this segment. The segment was amazing.
Good.
So I don't want to take up too much of your time. So I'm going to go ahead and ask the closing question. What is your design end game? What does the end of the road look like? You're riding the horse into the sunset. What is that?
That's a great question. I struggle with that. I struggle with questions like that, or like, what's your 5-year like plan questions? Because I don't know. Like, I don't know. And it's empowering to think like the possibilities are endless, right? But I don't know. I look at like different paths. I look at like what I could do. Like, I could be an Aaron Draplin and just work solo and just do solo, ride solo all the way towards the sunset. I could make an agency. I could hire 5 designers and 5 account people and like a business whatever person and do that. I could drop client services. I could completely stop helping people and just focus on making things and products. Shit, I could start making fine art or like gallery art, right?
Yep.
I could. And I don't know. And I have no clue. If I'm being honest, I just don't think I've tried, and you might be like, really? But like, I don't think I've tried enough things to really like solidify that, because I love people and I love working in a team. But like, how does that like affect me? And also like, what do I want to be known for? And like, what's going to be carved on my gravestone when like I pass, right? That's, I think, the defining factor for me. And I don't know, I haven't met enough people. And for me, reference is really important to an extent, right? It's just at least seeing what's out there. There's just so much I could take on. And I think that it's really powerful for me. And at the same time, I feel like I just need some kind of like guiding light, that's one thing I've been reflecting on the past couple of weeks, is like, what can I anchor myself onto that is like gonna be like the rope or like, you know, the way out of the maze or something like that.
For sure. That kind of keeps you going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like, especially like, you know, when we are in school, we have like graduation is in sight. Like at every class, graduation, every extra thing, graduation, or whatever, master's or whatever, PhD.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get out of school and then you're like, oh shit, like what's the path to go down? Yeah. And while I think a lot of people would take it as like scary and like analysis paralysis, I kind of take it as like really empowering, because it just lets me know that I can keep doing what I'm doing for a pretty long time until I either am not growing or I just shift, right? Yeah. So to bring it back a little bit, one of my goals, I think I'm gonna play the solo game for like a little bit longer, because I think there's a lot of power. One of the industry trends right now is creating communities around single creators. And I think I'm kind of growing this little Yamz fam, Yamz army, you may call it. And I think that's like something really powerful and something that could not only benefit me financially, but also benefit me personally. And then from there, start like picking away at what that means. And maybe it is a smaller agency of some sorts. I do really want to speak more. I want to give a TED Talk in the next 2 years. I want to speak at my alma mater on stage, or just go around giving workshops to different college students, and just empowering more people, especially people of color, to follow their passions and to be more of the thing that is not out there in the world. Yeah. Because there are so many things that we need to become for like the next generation. And then keep shilling some products. Because I love making it. It feels like the side hustle to the side hustle for some reason, but I just have a lot of fun. And when I go to vendor markets, it's to connect. It's not to make money. It's to connect with folks and to connect with people, because I've actually gotten so many opportunities from vendor markets, like branding projects, custom illustration projects, from just meeting someone in person. And yeah, they bought a pin or they bought a sticker, right? But that's like kind of the byproduct of making that connection. So yeah, I think I'm gonna just keep doing me for a little bit longer and see where that leads us.
That's so poetic. I love it. I feel like that, I feel like I the past couple people I've interviewed, and it just shows me how similar we all are. Like, we don't know. This is like gooey. It's not firm. We don't know where we're going. Like, but to have the idea that you're just going to be yourself and you're going to be okay in it, and it's okay to just exist and not be like in the rat race or working towards more degrees or working towards a level at a C-suite at a corporation. It's nice to see that. I think you'll be whatever you want to be. In all honesty, that's how I feel. I'm like, I feel like you'll take yourself wherever it's going to be. I also have really enjoyed that's why I do this podcast, is kind of to get, not only to get other people's voices out, but to get my own voice out. For a long time, I didn't speak. I worked in corporate America, and you kind of, in that world, you don't have a voice. You're just a number. You show up every day, you do some work, and you go home. But this allows me to kind of say how I'm thinking and how I'm feeling. And then the Yamz army, like, I feel that. I'm like, I'm in that. Like, I'm like, dang, those handkerchiefs you made.
Oh,
sick.
Thank you.
So sick. Like, so I love that. And to hear you speak, I see it in you. Like, you have anything you want to be able to do, you got it. So if you needed any more outside view of how you're perceived, I hope this podcast was enough to kind of get you there and give you what you feel like you don't necessarily get from everybody else who are just watching. Totally.
So. And hey, people might be thinking it, but they might not be saying it, and that's
for sure.
It's good to think about. It kind of lets you sleep at night sometimes.
For sure.
Thank you, Cameron. I appreciate those words.
No problem. This was a great episode. I had a good time.
Totally.
So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. So if there's anything you want to share, any project you want to put out there, anything, your social media handles, I always allow a little time for that. So
sweet. I feel like I'm on an episode of Hot Ones where they're looking to the camera.
That's my idol. So that's where some of the format comes from. So.
Oh, good. No, but you, if you liked what I have to say and you want to follow along on my art journey, you can follow me at Yamz World on every platform. Actually, we've kind of condensed that. Yamz.world on everything: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and I have a couple new items coming out in the next couple of weeks, so be on the lookout for those. I'm really excited about a lot of the apparel art. And if you're in Denver, Colorado, I would highly recommend you come down to a pop-up at some point. My pop-up schedule is on Instagram and on TikTok right now. And yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem. If you've made it to the end of this episode, I appreciate you being here. If you like what I've been putting together, the artists we've been pulling in here, designers we've been pulling in here, drop me a like, a comment, and go ahead and subscribe. This episode should be out, it's probably like 2 weeks from now. So around the 10th, 12th. And so keep them coming. I'm trying to stay consistent with this. So we're going to keep them moving. So again, I want to thank you all, and I'll see you on the next one.